Hi, my name is Maha Yogi. I'm going to talk a little bit about yoga and its philosophy, its vision. Yoga vision is best described as a kind of X ray vision. You could call it a way of seeing into soul consciousness. Now, a lot of people don't like the whole notion of consciousness, and they see this as magical thinking. But in the East, and especially in India, the Atma, or consciousness, is considered self-evident. And without any further discussion about whether we exist or not, we can assume that the soul indeed exists and that it's called the Atma. And it's possible to see into a higher reality with the eye of the Atma, the third eye, if you like. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to develop this kind of vision. So first I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I'm not here to take your money or get famous. I'm trying to share what I've learned from my guru, and many people have asked me to do that. My guru is no longer with us. His name was Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami, highly erudite Vaishnava guru in Bengal. I had the distinction of knowing him and learning from him. And many people have asked me, what can you tell us about those teachings? What was your takeaway? So, without expecting anything in return, I'm trying to describe a little bit about what I learned. I don't claim to be a master, in other words. I think that some people who represent themselves as masters are only fools in disguise, because a true master maintains his curiosity. A true teacher remains a student. So, as a student who's trying to make progress on the path, I think that good students also learn by teaching. And I'm trying to share what I learned from my teacher. I hope it'll be useful to you, and I'm happy that you're taking a couple of minutes to listen to me. I've been studying these yoga ideas for a long time, since the 1960s, and yet they seem to me ever fresh, because they're very deep and not merely ideas, but they're the key to a way of seeing things. And vision is important. We don't want to walk around blind, but sometimes we're blinded by materialistic desire, by the pull of our senses, by our inability to control the mind. So I'm speaking here as a friend who spent some time on the path. Maybe I can see a bit farther down the road. It's always a pleasure for me to connect with sincere souls, sincere young folks like yourselves, and maybe we can learn something together. So, how to look at the world through the lens of yoga, or what I'm going to call yoga vision. The idea is to go beyond a superficial or perfunctory understanding. What can we see with our physical senses, with the vegetable eye? We know that yoga is a great way to stay fit, to stay flexible physically, to tune the instrument, which is the human body. And there are lots of different systems for teaching yoga now. Iyengar, Integral Yoga, Kriya Yoga. We have an International Yoga Day where millions of people celebrate the yoga asanas of the morning sun meditation. The benefits of yoga exercise are great and well known. I know this. I'm still fit after 66 years. But yoga is not simply a question of doing exercise. The instrument we tune is not simply this material body made of flesh, bone, and muscle. We also have to keep in mind the mental construct. We need to tune the mind, for the body is dependent on the mind, And what about the soul, the Atma, the spiritual entity that gives life to the body and energy to the mind? In a strict sense, all the yoga paths are meant to bring body, mind, and spirit together in harmony, not simply to adjust or align the bone and muscle of the physical body. This harmony is impossible without cultivating the correct vision, the right way of seeing things. So this is what I'd like to explain a little bit about. The idea of yoga vision comes from the original yoga system as it was practiced in India for thousands of years since the Vedic times. The yoga system was encoded by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras and conceived of as an eightfold path. If you study these things, you'll find that the ancient yoga system mirrors the eightfold path of the Buddha. But there are some important distinctions, as we'll see as we go along. The eightfold path has 4 pairs. These are asana, which means postures, sitting postures, different poses. Yama, rules. Niyama, sort of anti-rules. It means rules and regulations for living. Pranayam is breath control, and pratyahara means leaving behind of unwanted things. There's dharana and dhyan, which are different forms of meditation. And finally, samadhi, which is illumination. Now, this sounds a little technical, but it's worth considering in detail. You advanced yoga students out there will understand my point of reference here, but even if you're an expert, you might profit from the explanation, because true yogis are always open to reflection. So stay tuned, you may learn something new. Newer students may have heard of the Eightfold Path, but it remains quite mysterious. The idea is that by proper practice, not just physical diet and exercise, but right vision, mindfulness, and meditation will bring us into harmony. So just as there are principles of harmony in music, rhythm, melody, counterpoint, and so on, there are principles in yoga which will help us tune our instruments. Now, the correct practice of this eightfold yoga path is not easy, and it'll take a bit of explanation. I'll continue this in my next talk. But before entering into the details, it's worth mentioning that it's important to develop a means for maintaining the mind in balance, controlling the mind, because only when one's mind is correctly focused on the Atma, or spiritual reality, may a truth seeker really continue on this path. And only by becoming established on the path will you really attain the serenity of meditation and be able to go placidly amidst the noise and haste of this troubling material world. This is why there are 8 aspects to this form of mystic yoga, culminating in what we call samadhi, which may be considered enlightenment. Of course, everyone wants to jump right to the end and consider themselves enlightened, but in fact, it may take many years of practice to arrive at complete enlightenment. It may take many lifetimes. Personally, I've met and known many great yogis who, after years of practice, feel they're only starting out, but that is not a hindrance. They understand that they've profited greatly from developing yoga vision, from opening this third eye into the spiritual nature. So it may take some time to develop enlightenment, but don't be discouraged. In our next talk, we'll discuss the basic principles of the Eightfold Path and how to practice them. Thanks a lot. Until then, peace.